Hey folks, Bull Run Boys. Just going out for a little morning walk today. I was going to put this video out a few days ago, and I failed to do that, so I apologize. But I wanted to talk about God and money. See, God has a lot to say about money. And around 20 years ago, I read a passage in the Bible that sort of set me on a journey that I didn't expect. And that parable, well, it's actually a story. Many of you are probably familiar with it. The rich man walks up to Jesus and he says, "Master, or teacher," he said, "Teacher, how do I get eternal life?" And Jesus said, "Well, follow the 10 Commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. Honor thy mother and father. Don't covet the neighbor's wife. Don't bear false witness. Yada yada." Right? The guy said, "Well, I've done all of that." And Jesus said, "Okay. Well, if you want to be perfect, then go sell all of your things and basically give your money to the poor and follow me." Whew. That's a request. I mean, think about that from a wealthy person's mind. They've invested their entire life thinking about their wealth, investing in their wealth, spending time on it. The majority of their time is spent on acquiring their wealth. And in the blink of an eye, they're asked to give it all up. It's a pretty tough question. So the first time I read that, I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm never going to make it into heaven. I want to pursue wealth," right? Well, it wasn't until many years later that I understood that it was the motive behind the wealth that is the cause of the problem. If everything that you desire is for selfish needs, maybe you want to buy Lamborghinis and palm trees and all that stuff, and everything is self-serving, your pursuit of wealth is for your own fleshly desires, and that's going to be a problem. If your desire for wealth is to follow the instructions we've been given, because basically there's another passage in there that says, it's in Proverbs, it said, "A wise man shall raise up an inheritance for his children's children." You see, it's your financial responsibility to raise up wealth for your family and for your generations. It's our job. Basically telling us that's what we need to do. And there's another supporting story in the Bible I'll get to in a second, but it's our job to do it. But it's not just for our own self-serving needs so that we can have, lavish ourselves in gold and things like that. It's so that we can help others and do his work, do God's work for him. And the next story I was going to talk about is, and this one kind of tripped me out. I had to spend some time on this one, because the first time that I read this one, I didn't quite get it either. And basically, many of you have probably heard this story, and Jesus was, it wasn't Jesus, it was a master. He was getting ready to leave town, and he was going to be gone for quite a while. Back then, they may be gone for a year or 2 years or a long time, right? And they would entrust their slaves and their servants. I know today, if we use the term master and slave and things like that, it can be seen almost as racist. But back then, your servant might be your right-hand man. I mean, they know all of your affairs, your passwords, they have access to your diamonds, all of your wealth, right? These are people that you entrust to do things for you, to manage your estate. And so this man was getting ready to leave, this master was, and he had to give each servant a certain number of talents, money. And the Bible says it's according to their abilities. Now I want you to think about this for a minute. He gives the first servant 5 talents. He gives the next servant 2 talents, and the final servant, he gives him 1 talent. And when he returns later on, now keep in mind, I want you to think about something. This is not their money. They're being entrusted with their master's money. And the first servant went out and he took his 5 talents and he went and traded and invested and did whatever he had to do to multiply those talents. The second one did the same thing. But the last one took and buried the talent. He only was given one, but he buried it because, you know, he was trying to play the safe game. The master came back and he says, you know, what did you do with the talent I gave you? He said, well, master, I buried it because, you know, I knew that you were a harsh man and you're reaping where you did not sow. And so I buried it so that it would be safe. You know what the master says to him? He says, wicked, lazy servant. He called him wicked and lazy. Think about that for a minute. He entrusted him with his wealth to do something with it and to manage it as he would manage it. And the man buries it out of fear. And his response was that he's a wicked and lazy servant. That's pretty harsh, right? Pretty harsh words. The man said, if you knew that I was a harsh man, reaping where I did not sow, then why didn't you at least put it in the bank where I could have gained interest? And when you think about that, the first two people that invested their talents and went and traded, that was not their money. That was their master's money. They were being stewards of that money. And good stewards they were. They were being good stewards of the money that was being entrusted to them. The last servant who buried the talent had the means to multiply it, was given the means to multiply it, and did not do it. So we have a financial responsibility, and with XRP, God is giving us an opportunity according to our abilities, and this is the key here. For some of you, if you invest $1,000 and it turns into, you know, $20 million or whatever it turns out to be, that may be all you're able to manage. And for others, you know, if you've invested $100 grand or $1 million or whatever you put in, you may become a billionaire. And most of us are not used to managing portfolios north of $100 million. We're just not used to doing it. And so what I wanted to remind you of is that we have to sort of reinvent the way that we think. You see, all of my life, I've always prepared my mind for, you know, managing a portfolio of maybe $5 or $10 million of my own assets. But I never imagined $500 million or $1 billion. And it's really caused me to raise the bar on myself in the way that I think. You know, I've spent the last 20 years trying to increase my financial aptitude, but this is not only a blessing, but it's also going to be a test of our character. You know, what are you going to do with that wealth? What are you going to do with it? Anybody that's invested in XRP right now, and you know what's going on, and what I mean by that is you've been paying attention. We are going to see a wealth transfer, I believe. But I think more than that, you need to start to think differently. You need to start meditating on what it's like to wake up every day and have more than enough. Another thing I want to bring up is, and we could talk about God and money for a long time, but this is a rather important one. A lot of non-believers don't understand the principle of tithing. You know, you give 10% of your earnings to the Lord. This is one area. God gave us two things he tests us on. One is people, because people will test you. Lord have mercy, they will test you. Two, money. And he says, give 1/10 of your earnings. Test me in this and see if I do not pour out blessings that you cannot contain. We're not talking about a raise. We're not talking about a little extra. We're talking about your cup is overflowing with blessing, a godly blessing, like something so big you can't contain it. That's the kind of blessings that God does. You need to start to wrap your mind around your upcoming responsibilities, because with great wealth comes great responsibility. You need to start to reinvent your mind and to sort of, again, raise that financial aptitude to the place where you can manage that sort of asset portfolio. I have my own personal beliefs about the XRP holders. I think we're going to see a lot of people that just squander their wealth and go right through it. They're not, they're going to spend their seed instead of their harvest. Everything biblically is seed and harvest. As you sow, you shall reap. That's not just financial. If you sow bad seeds in life, bad energy, you're going to get bad energy back. You think about it. I live on a farm. I've got cows and chickens. We grow a garden and things like that. And if I go to plant seeds, I don't eat the seeds that are produced off that plant. I eat the harvest. So if you end up with $100 million or $200 or $300 million or whatever amount you end up with, and you start spending out of that pot instead of spending the interest, you'll be surprised how quickly you can go through $20 or $30 million, because people they're going to climb out of the woodwork. Everybody's going to be in need around you. Everybody's going to have a dream or a business a business opportunity that they're going to want you to look at and invest in. It's not to say that you cannot help people, but you're going to have to raise your level of discernment also. The XRP holders are going to be some of the wealthiest people in the world. Get ready for it. Start to prepare your mind for it. Start to meditate on it and think about what it's going to be like, because you're going to have to make some tough decisions. It's not going to be, wealth is not easy. Yes, it does make your life more simple. You have more choices. But you're also going to have more responsibility. So enjoy the wealth. Enjoy your blessing. Just don't put it before God. See you guys.